Hey, it's Russell back again with another episode. Hopefully I can get through this recording without getting interrupted. I have a lot of things I'm doing right now and a bit overwhelmed with everything that's going on. So yeah, hopefully hopefully I can get through this pretty quickly. And yeah, I'm just watching a replay and commentating over it. Actually, don't remember too well what's going on. Let's see. It's like I'm building roads. I'm going to be transporting workers over to the new island. All that stuff that I need to be doing to keep progress going. And yeah, it's important to progress in a Civ game. Because if you don't progress in a Civ game, you fall behind. And then you lose because everyone outpaces you. Um, and that's what's cool about Civ. It's like kind of like running a race. In this case, it's against the AI. Sometimes you're playing multiplayer against people. I never really touched Civ 3 multiplayer, and I think that owes to the fact that I was a kid when I last played this game, like before starting to play it now, and so yeah. Um, but yeah, basically you're in a race against the AI in trying to either get a rocket ship in space or get to a UN, uh, the UN built first or whatever you're racing for. Because if someone gets one of those things first, you lose, and so it becomes a very tight game. Maybe you uh, are going for, I don't remember what all the victories are actually off the top of my head, but yeah. And it's a race where you're allowed to kick people or trip them up or whatever. You sabotage other people's progress, which makes it pretty cool. Um, it gives you that sort of like Soviet Union versus United States space race vibe, maybe, or I don't know. It's just that's probably not a good comparison, but still, it's an interesting take on the game, how like a civilization can win. In the case of the real world, no one really wins. Everyone is screwed in their own way. But yeah, uh, look, what am I gonna do here? Let's see. What is this amazing thing I'm gonna do in this city? Build a harbor. Okay, that's an interesting choice. I'm not sure if I would choose that now. That was an aqueduct. That's probably a good choice because that city needs to grow. All the cities on the mainland are going to continue to grow because they're like grassland or they're irrigated. Um, so yeah, making sure those cities keep growing is good. These other cities are just not going to be able to grow a lot. They don't have a source of fresh water. Um, it won't be till like electricity that I can irrigate on those places, and I'm not sure if I ever do irrigate those places, just because I get so caught up in other things in the second half of the game that we'll see happens. Lost our supply of incense, and this person doesn't want to extend it, so that's not good. Aw. And yeah, people are celebrating We Love the Empress Day. I like that little touch there. And not being all just We Love the King Day or whatever like that. And building another mine there. At this point in the game, nothing too crazy is going on. Everything is being built up. The tech tree is being researched. Progress is being made. And roads are being built. So yeah. And civil disorder because there's no incense. That's right. People are not as happy because they don't have a luxury to keep them happy anymore. So I need to do something about that. In this case, it looks like I'm just going for the specialist route. There's two things you could do for happiness. One would be to make someone a specialist because they can't be unhappy when they're a specialist. Another would be to get a specialist that gives you happiness. And then another, a third way, would be to what's the word for it? Change the it's gonna be here. sliders for what you're spending money on, I guess it would be. So you see how it has 0% right now? I could put currency into like making my people happy if I really felt like I needed to do that. When it's like one city that's upset, it might not be worth doing that. When it's like a whole ton of cities that are upset, being able to like reduce the unhappiness across the board is very much worth it usually. Right now doing that is not a good idea because again, we're in a race for technology. Most cases though, it's actually a better idea to use the happiness slider rather than get like specialists and stuff like that, because you're cutting down the growth of your empire, and things like that whenever you make someone a specialist, because they aren't contributing to growing the city that they're in and all of that. So yeah. And usually it's you get more money from people like working tiles rather than being specialists too. So that means more research anyways. Because currency in this game directly translates into research for those spiders. And civil disorder again. Now this is the point where it's smarter to use the slider. Because you see how they're all upset all at once? That would be way too many specialists. So bumping up the slider a little bit, seeing what happens, seeing who's happy and who's upset still. And so long as most of them are happy, it's worth it just to bump up the slider just once. It's a lot of gold. As you can see, I went from like +1 or +2 to -15 like instantly by doing that. So it does have to like be, one of those things where it's worth it to do. Particularly in the early game, it's a bad idea to turn people into specialists. At this point, it's a little bit less bad, and eventually you're going to have specialists in a lot of your cities that like grow like too big to be working the tiles and everything. There won't be a way around it then, but yeah. The Spanish seem to be progressing a bit. They don't seem to be too technologically behind me. Don't seem to be too technologically ahead of me. I'm pretty sure they were behind me for the longest time because I was able to sail away and discover people when they weren't. And I was able to trade a ton of texts with people who they had not had contact with yet, which got me pretty far ahead of most factions, like early on at least. It's going to be a very hard lead to maintain though, because the AI seems to do a better job at researching, and I'm not sure if it's like a buff or if it's just that they're better. Most likely it's because they're better, but yeah. But the AI does a pretty good job at researching and trading text sometimes themselves, and so they will naturally be faster than me and fall ahead of me. Many of the civs will over time, and a lot of them have bigger empires too that produce more science. Like I didn't expand too much this game. I'm bigger than some other people's, that's for sure, but not everyone. Most factions I think are going to be larger than me throughout this entire game. And yeah, moving some units around, trying to garrison some of the cities. I don't have too many units, and it's a good thing I don't have too many units, just because I don't want to have to pay maintenance on them. And I only have a few very high pop cities. The way Republic works is for your low pop cities you can only have like 1 unit supported by that city, while your like larger pop cities can have, I think it's like 2, and then your even larger pop cities will have like 4 units that can be like supported by it. So yeah, it's pretty limiting on how many units you can have and what you can do with that regard. But other than that, yeah, you want to make sure that you don't have too many units right now. Eventually, you'll either be making enough money to have more units and pay for them, or you'll have a large enough population, or you'll switch to something like communism or fascism, which lets you have units out the wazoo. Um, or you'll just stay as Republic with a few units, just be friendly to everyone and research out the game. Um, in this case, I'm not sure that's a viable option because of how fast and strong the AI is this game, and you guys will see that a little later. But yeah, that is certainly one way to play. And yeah, looks like I'm just about finished improving almost every single tile in my mainland area, and because I shipped some of my workers over to the other island, they're making pretty decent progress this video. In fact, I went ahead and converted a couple workers over the shields. Not that it made any difference in getting that temple done faster. A little bit of a waste, but it's one of those things where it's like, I don't want to pay the maintenance on these guys forever, and I don't necessarily need them right now. Once I improve all the tiles, it's going to be quite a while before I need workers again, so I don't want to have to keep improving these, keep paying maintenance for workers that I don't need. It's one of those things. But yeah, made some pretty good progress. Forbidden Palace is only 10 turns away from being built in Sardica, and I chose there to build the Forbidden Palace because it felt like it was close enough to the other islands, like that one island with 3 cities on it, to like help impact them being a lot less corrupt. And then also because it's on the other island, it's going to make that island a whole lot less corrupt. It just felt like the perfect spot to put a Forbidden Palace for me. I didn't want to put it too far away because I didn't have very much faith that I'm going to be able to keep that 3-city island, knowing how hard it would be to defend it and everything. But yeah, it's one of those things where, it's just a call. Tell me if you guys would have put the Forbidden Palace in Sardica, or if you guys would have put it somewhere else. But for me, it seemed like the right decision. Looking around my different cities, looking at specialists, seeing if I can get rid of them from being specialists. In this case, yeah, I can. Maybe? Yeah, I can get rid of them from being a specialist. They don't need to be a specialist anymore. And yeah, almost every single tile improved. Celebration has ended. And people are building more mines. As you can see, growth is stagnated in like 3 of the 4 cities that are on that island. They're not going to be able to grow anytime soon without the help of things like buildings and stuff like that. Trebizond is 1 turn away from a granary, so that'll help. Maybe I could manage the population a bit better to make them grow faster, but it's not something I'm really hard pressed to do. Everything is doing well. I should probably learn to min-max a bit better, like manage the population manually and let those cities grow a bit more. In hindsight, it would have actually gone a pretty long ways to be able to grow those cities up and everything. And considering their place next to the water, it could have been done. But yeah, I wasn't focused on that. And I'm not too confident in my ability to min-max at this point, because I wouldn't be sure if I was making the right decision by telling the city to grow rather than produce hammers and stuff like that, for example. So yeah. Like, and what's one of those things, like in Civ 5, it's like, I know what's going to make this empire better, so min-maxing the pop happens more often. But, like, in Civ 3, it never really mattered too much to me. But it should. I should get better at that. Cathedral, no. Colosseum, maybe? Harbor? I thought I already queued a harbor there. I'm so confused. Maybe I changed it from a harbor to something else later. I'm so confused. Oh well. Technologically, we're plowing through these technologies. Probably should have gone back and researched library at this point, maybe. But yeah, horses. Sure thing. And yeah, people are going to keep asking me for stuff, and I'm going to keep giving it to them throughout most of the game. Just because, you know, I'm not really in much of a position to defend myself at this point, so. Cathedral. That's pretty cool. It's one of those things where it's like we're having a bit of a border war, so having cultural buildings is pretty good. I think a cathedral's cultural, at least. I hope it is. Or I just sound really stupid. But yeah, if you you want to be able to push the opposing person's culture and have a resistance against it, as well as put off your own influence, because by doing that you might even be able to steal their city. I know that's that's a pretty cheesy mechanic, the culture system, and some people disable it. I'm not sure if it can be disabled in Civ 3 or in Civ 4. Like I'm pretty sure both of them have culture swapping, and one of the games at least you're able to disable culture swapping cities and stuff like that. I like to leave it on. It adds a bit of an extra element to it, even now as random as it is and as controversial as it is. I know, it's just one of those things where it's like I don't feel like I won if I don't have all the main features like activated and everything like that. So yeah, I leave it on. And looking at Nauseous Decnoseptum, you don't need to be a specialist anymore. Just looking through, I guess, the city, seeing what specialists there are and which ones need to be specialists. That one needs to still be a specialist, unfortunately. And yeah, we don't have a lot of gold at this point. We're only making +2. We only have 15 in the bank. We ran out of gold at some point, or close to running out of gold at some point. And it's 700 AD. So we've come a pretty long ways already in this game. Pretty significant distance. I believe the way it works is like the space between the years is not always the same. So like it starts counting years by like maybe it was like hundreds or 50s or whatever at the beginning of the game. And then as you get later and later into the game, now it's like counting the years by tens, and then eventually like later on it's going to be counting the years like ones maybe, or twos or whatever. But yeah, time like sort of slows down. So there's still quite a bit of the video left. Videos left, mind you. It doesn't mean we're like more than halfway done, because we've gone through like 4,720 years at this point. There's still quite a lot of Civ 3 campaign left, so please stick around, subscribe, get some popcorn and all of that. And feel free to tell me and critique me on everything that I do, because I learn from it. I may not always respond to it because I'm a pretty busy person and I'm always like running around, but I read it all and I take it all into account. And next game, hopefully I'll play it better because of it. Still trying to decide on how I want to play next game, what settings I want it to be on. Was thinking down the road, I think I said this last video actually, but it's been a while since I recorded the last video, so I'm not sure if I said this. I was thinking of trying to do something that's like all random, like just have it be on like random Civ and random map, because yeah, I think that would be a fun experience. I might not necessarily like play the best because I'm not the best at this game and it might be a little too much for me, but I think that could be fun. And I look forward to maybe trying that out. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I don't think there's too much left of this video, so I'm gonna say my goodbye here. Like, favorite, and subscribe if you guys want to see more. Always interested in your feedback down in the comment section. You guys have a good one. God bless.